Please join me in our national anthem and place the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Tom. Indication. Mr. Tom West.
You all of you that wonder who beat up on me, I want to just remind us, all of us, that this Sunday, finally need to see your dermatologist, be right. Doing fine. All right, let us pray. Is it fair to all concerned? Oh God, who claims all the children of earth to be your children, teach us to live together as brothers and sisters, members of a common family. Teach us to be fair to one another, trusting everyone with the same respect and dignity that abound in the noble families. Let us reach out as friends to all with whom we do business, trusting them and encouraging their possible response. Help us always to give the benefit of the doubt to those who appear to differ with us, creating a climate of cooperation rather than mutual suspicion. You have blessed us with goodness and mercy, far exceeding anything we deserve. Make us equally great and generous in all our dealings with our associates. Bless the time we spend together as Rotarians, and let you be the glory. Amen.
Amen. Terry Dunn.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, President. We hope you all are having a great fun. It's nice to see everybody here. And please be careful when we go home, because it looks like the weather's going to be kind of pumped up on us. Celebrating some anniversaries and birthdays today. Mark Kristen on April the 7th, Tim Shirley April the 8th or 10th, and Mark Smith on April the 12th. Anniversaries include Josh Chapman and Hannah, April the 9th, along with James Matheny and Jennifer, the same day. Hope you all have a great week. Thank you.
Mr. Kirk Davis, introduction gifts.
We have just one guest today. Would you please stand when I call your name? Tony Wesley, guest of Chuck Jackson.
Camp Alaska, Mr. Alex Reynolds. Start fresh again, 39 points. Ring number 0922. 09/4, 0922. Ace lives on. Nice place. Hey, Alex, you wanna, yeah, do you want to say a little something about next, about Tuesday?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you, sir. I just wanted to let everybody know that, Congressman Gore is speaking to the Tuesday Rotary Club next week. So if you'd like to go, just wanted to make that announcement. Let me or Blake Seymour know Tuesday Club by this Friday. So thank you.
So you'll need a head count for lunches and so forth. Okay. That's good. All right, hey, Sioux Drive. It's over next Monday, so I expect to have truckloads next Monday. David said he would take it all with him. Is that confirmation? Sioux Drive, is it you're talking about? Sioux Drive. Yeah, everybody needs to bring a truckload next week. You're gonna take them all in another truck back. Food bank, right? My truck. Okay, all right, I'll help. Well, 2 truckloads. Just a reminder, we'll start we have our next board meeting next Monday, but in May for the next board meeting, I'll put you guys on email. The new board members, we're gonna let you come to a couple beforehand, just to get break in a little bit. So you can find all your new jobs at the start. Troy Fountain, Wes Grant, Lawrence Johnson, just a reminder, and we'll give you 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, let you know when that board meeting. And so we'll go to a couple before we start getting started off with the new in July. Greg Hendricks.
Just a report on the Rotary Ball. We're 87% of our goal as far as tables and sponsorship. So I want to thank everyone who's pitched in there. 4 tables, maybe just 3 tables left. So if you want to get one, it'd be a good time. Appreciate all the support. Thank you.
We'll let you tell it. I know, what's the way I need to hear? I can't do everything for you. Is there any Gator fans in the building? Just oh, I know, my heart is hurting, but it's okay. Couldn't happen to a better person. Go Gators, whatever they say. Chop chop. All right, Mr. John, you're up.
All right, so Greg, thanks for the introduction on the Rotary Ball. It's good to have Melinda here. The proceeds from the Rotary Ball, as you know, go to the Miracle Field Fund. So Melinda, look forward to hearing you speak to us. Melinda's been involved in that for many years. I just want to give a quick introduction to Melinda before she comes up. So Melinda is a seasoned marketing and public relations professional with more than 30 years of experience in creating impactful local, regional, and national campaigns for some of the country's most impressive corporations. She's a graduate of Auburn University with a bachelor's degree in public relations and speech communications. The Dothan traversed the country after college, learning her craft only to come home and marry her junior high crush. After 4 children and an exhausting career in the corporate for-profit world, McClendon left Dothan to run a nonprofit in Auburn, Alabama. The non-for-profit is the Exceptional Foundation of East Alabama, a day program for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Now, with 4 years under her belt, McClendon has concluded that the first half of her career might have increased the balance of her 401k, but it was her work in the non-for-profit realm that produced a life-changing return on her investment. Recently, she's semi-retired. McClendon is looking forward to seeking a new adventure that will allow her to continue her passion for helping the most underserved population in the world, individuals with disabilities. Help me welcome Melinda to the stage.
can talk way up here. I gotta talk way down here. It's been a long time since I've been. Do I need a microphone? Do I need I'm so. Okay, thank y'all for having me. It's been a long time since I've been able to speak to the Monday Rotary group, who was instrumental. You were instrumental in your, and I'm speaking not to review our success necessarily, but I want to talk to those of you who are new to the Miracle Field concept and kind of get an idea about what your work, what your initiative is doing for the betterment of people like my sweet buddy, who is also a guest today, sitting on Jojo, as he refers to him, who are our next door neighbors and across the street neighbors, and virtually help raise Buck in our little neighborhood. So they're surrogate brother and surrogate dad who's taking their place. So the Miracle Field, just in a quick review, I don't do anything quickly, so there you have it. So you might keep your plate. So the Miracle Field was promoted on television, on the Today Show, many years ago. I don't even know. We were maybe the late 2000. No, it had to have been. But Buck was already born. He was born in 2003, so it's probably a year or two after he was born. And they talked about this ball field that was built in the state of Georgia for young children and ultimately adults who had disabilities, who weren't able to play baseball. So I watched it that morning. I don't think Elizabeth may have been born. She was the baby. She was born in 2005. But I ran to my office, my home office. And if you remember, Apple computers, the first computer they came out with was like this little bitty tower. It was like this tall, this wide, had a little monitor on the top, and had a little keyboard. That was my computer. So I pulled up the Today Show, and I traversed through the internet to find out about this ball field. Because Ted, my husband, you know Ted played baseball at Alabama, so we got all these baseball paraphernalia around the house. Our two older boys, Bray and Charlie, were both in T-ball. I won't tell you if they were good or not, but they were in T-ball. So I thought, well, Buck's got to have a ball field too. So anyway, I pursued that, and I told Ted, I ordered the book from Lawrenceville, Georgia, which is where it's based. And so I get this huge package in the mail, huge package. It weighed 5 pounds. It was this giant 3-wing binder that I know was this. The neck of the binder was 5 inches thick. So I go through the whole book, and it talks about all the things that are required and all the things it's going to do for your child and your family and your community. And I went to Ted and I said, I gotta have this. And he said, well, okay, like, how are you gonna do this? I said, I don't know. He said, well, how much does it cost? Because he probably thought it was like Bad News Bears kind of ball. Like you go to the park and you just have a little broom to dust off your t-shirt or whatever for home base. And so I said, well, it says in here, it says right here, you're gonna need minimum of $500,000 to do this. And Ted looked at me and he said, you get right on this. And I did. And I pursued it with such a vengeance because I never ever thought that it wasn't possible. Never. And when you have a child with any type of disability, regardless of what the diagnosis is, you're hell bent on making their life as great as it possibly can be. No matter what their efficiencies are or what their deficiencies are. You are going to work tirelessly, especially if you're push it on a mom. So I spoke at Rotary, and I spoke to a couple of different people one-on-one. Yeah, well, we'll see about that. I went to the city, Ms. McClendon, we'll just, this isn't a good idea, but, we're on projects right now, and we'd love to get to that. And I thought, well, Buck he'll be too old by that. I think I spoke to Joseph several times about it, but I got to Rotary, and I brought Buck with me. He's the greatest salesman on earth. He's not nonverbal at all. Joseph and Lawrence will tell you. I'm going to describe it to you because it sealed the deal. He had these little khakis that were about this long. He's a little bitty fella. He's this big. Had long hair. He had on a little blue plaid shirt and a little baby cotton polo navy vest. And he had on red tennis shoes. And he used to walk like this, still does. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember when Buck would come and he would walk like this, he'd fold his hands behind his back? Well, he would walk while I was talking. And he had those little red skips. And out in the audience were all of you and then some who come before you, who he just kind of casually walked through the audience. He wasn't scared of anybody. He just walked through the audience while I was talking. I was going through the big show, whatever. And he went and sat in John's lap. And I immediately said, I did not tell him to do that. I did not tell him to do that. I promise you, I did not tell him to do that. And that's the end of the story. Thanks for patting me down. So Mr. Watson, I don't know. I don't think it was just Buck sitting in his lap by any stretch of the name. But Buck was definitely the closer that day. So we built the field. We've had an incredible run, no pun intended. But we left town for 4, this is totally a separate story. I moved to Auburn. I was recruited to move to Auburn to run the Exceptional Foundation, which is a day program for adults with special needs. And the main reason why I accepted that job was because when Buck was after he was born, he had open heart surgery, which is very typical for those people born with Down syndrome. So we were at UAB. They sent Ted home because there were so few hours that we could see him while he was being operated on. While he was in the ER. He was in intensive care. So they would make me leave every day between certain hours, just for me to get out, but also he couldn't have visitors all the time. So every single day, I would get up. Ted came home, he had other children. I would drive to Homewood, and I would park my car in the shaded park, and I would go to Nabil's and get a strawberry sandwich. That was my routine. They all knew me. I knew them. And I would sit in my car, and I would see adults with special needs, like in the distance in this park. And what are they doing? They get off and on the bus, off and on the bus. So finally, I go and I follow them, and they park in the parking lot of the Exceptional Foundation in Birmingham. So I sat down and watched them every day. So finally, the lady that drove the bus came over to my car, and she said, I rolled my window down, and I said, I'm not stalking you, I promise. And I said, well, I think I am stalking. But she said, why don't you come inside? I told her what I was here for. Buck was in the hospital. So I go inside the Exceptional Foundation, and it's like Disneyland for people with special needs who've aged out of the school system. I thought, oh my word, I got to have one of these. I got to have one of these. So years later, fast forward, Buck's completely, he's out of the hospital. He's never had any other health issues, so we've had very little concern. So much so that I looked at Ted one day. I wish he was here because he was so embarrassed. But I looked at him one day after Buck had all of his heart surgeries were over, and he was perfectly healthy. And I said, I think I want one more. And he said, one more what? He said, one more child. And he was like, oh, hell no. Because you men, you're more sensitive maybe than we are on that. But once you birth a child and done all the things, you're tough as nails. I think I just want one more. Well, I'm in charge of that. So at 41, our daughter Elizabeth was born with intention because I had so many people. This is more about the world of special needs than it is about miracle field. But this tells you how convicted I am about this population. When I was very pregnant with Elizabeth, our only daughter, was huge, old, not a great combination. And people would come to me and how women, they'll put their hands towards your pregnant stomach. No, they're weird that way. Your daughters want something. I'm sure, like, 3. So I'm so sorry I'm laughing. And people would say, they would look at me, and I might have had 2 gray hair strands right here, which I could color, but no more. But they would say, aren't you afraid? They'd look me straight in the face and say, aren't you afraid? And I knew where they were going. I'd want to make them say it and say, afraid of what? Afraid of what? He'd say, well, what if? Like, what if you have another child with Down syndrome? And then I forced him to sit down, so I could go through the litany of things that were so great about Down syndrome. Elizabeth came along, so when she learned to walk, because everybody wanted to hold her, Buck especially. But our neighborhood raised her, and now she is studying to be a therapist for people, for children and adults with special needs, what she studied in college. So, but I had to prove that point. And yes, I'm always the oldest mother in the group of them, but I also think I'm the right. So that child right there has changed our entire family, our entire Fox Ridge family too, which is our street that we lived on with the Yelvertons and the Johnsons, who were instrumental in raising. I think Lawrence could probably give this speech better than I could, because they were so good. Anyway, so let me get my. This population is so worthy, and what you have done has been life changing. When I tell you life changing, that's not. I'm not joking with you. This miracle field has been life changing for this population, and not just the kids who play, the kids who are from 4 years old to 54 years old. It's their family members who get to watch them do things that they never expected them to be able to do. Never, never. I should be a volunteer at every hospital that when a child is born with a disability, that I get to go love on that mom and dad. I wish that was a respectable job that hospitals are coming that way. Just let random people come in on the street and hug your babies in the nursery. But listen, when we moved to Auburn, this is cold. I shouldn't say this, but when we moved to Auburn, I was excited about. First, I jumped right in. We were growing they didn't bother to tell me I only had $30,000 in the bank, but I didn't even care. I just knew we could make it work, and they had 1.8 and I left. But that was a town effort. But when we moved to Auburn, I said, I want to see the miracle field. So some people at work, I didn't know where it was. I was like, oh, way on the other side of Opelite. When I tell you it was way on the other side, it was way on the other side. There were no signs for it. There was no, we found a dirt road. The dirt road. It was the dumpiest. Now you're talking about in the sports capital of this part of the state. And they had a dumpy miracle field. And I let them know immediately. Like I started pulling up pictures on the website, what I had on my phone. They just were blown away. They couldn't believe it. Showed them pictures of our park, which that's a whole other conversation I want to have. But you would think Auburn would have had a very fancy miracle field, but not even in the league. And I was invited by someone, I think probably one of this group, when I was in Auburn to come back for the day, because a gentleman from Canada came down to Dothan to see our miracle. So I was there. I don't know who, there were several people that were there, but they wanted me to come down and talk about it. And I visited with him for a long time. And this has been several years ago, but people come from all over to see this miracle field. And that's because of what you have done. It's not because anything I had done. I did. All I did was this right here, and was adamant about being able to play ball. What you have done is miraculous, frankly. And I'm so glad to be back home. That was always the goal. We never intended to stay there. I just wanted to learn how to run that nonprofit. So possibly we could do something here in that vein. But it's such a secret, man. I can't tell you. Maybe by the end of my speech, I'll have a loose tongue. But so the fundraiser coming up. I'm late to the game on this one, but I will help you do whatever it takes to raise the funds to keep that ball field the number one. It really is. It's the number one in the country. The Miracle Field people have said that. It's their favorite ball field. And the two fields on either side is what really does it for everyone. You know, when we all were first meeting on this, and you all were talking about that, that was not an idea that anyone knew about. I think it was internally within the Rotary that you should make it where there's young boys who play ball on either side of them, so they have to see exactly who is playing in the field, which is the most important. And I think that's also been instrumental in the design, the implementation. I've had a lot of now grown men tell me that they started volunteering because they walked past it to get to their own field. Because there's nothing worse than a snooty, arrogant, condescending teenager of either sex, color, race, creed, religion, or whatever, who thinks it's funny to make jokes about people that aren't just like them. I think that whole entire park is kind of smokestack for this community and the small communities around here who also. But whatever fundraising efforts and initiatives that you desire to implement or perform or create, I'm your girl. Old girl, but I'm your girl nonetheless. So, if anybody has any questions, I know there are people here that maybe have not even been in the Miracle Field. I don't know. I'll tell you, when I spoke to Tuesday's group, last month, I talked to them in the winter, and then I talked to him last month about the fundraiser, and we actually met at the Miracle Field. And they had lunch under the pavilion, and I was standing, where the concession area is right here, and they were in all the tables. And I walked up and I was talking to everybody, and so we started the program. And while I was talking to them, I couldn't even get a sentence out of my mouth. I've never spoken to a group there that I could see the ball field and the playground behind them. And I started bawling. I thought, I cannot speak. I cannot even talk to you with that in my field of vision. I was so overwhelmed, and for the first time in a long time, I was absolutely speechless. And they knew it too. I was really struggling. So that's my home away from home. I've already told Ted I want my ashes to be spread out in the field. I put before the field was laid, the original field was laid, I put a copy of Bub's birth certificate under it. Of course, that's been dug up now and replaced. Thanks to you, it's been replaced. But that's how strongly I feel about that place. And I can't thank you enough for what all you've done and continue to do. But I'm back, and I'm open to questions or comments or dialogue or whatever you want to talk about. But just know that one day that's going to be home to that's my forever home. So let's keep it nice. Let's keep it clean for my burial. Anybody have any questions or comments? Y'all have anything? Nothing?
We're just excited to sign you up with us. Continue with us.
Okay, good. When I'm real passionate about something, I think I have this no holds barred kind of thing. And this has been the greatest adventure of my life, is to be a part of this group in the Miracle Field.
Yeah, I'll say, it's been a couple years, but, there was a group of us who used to go out there and volunteer for the alcohol club. And I talked to a parent, again, this was a couple years ago, that drove an hour each week so their kid could play ball. So, it's not just our local community, it's the region that's impacted.
Oh, for sure.
And then also too, I was on the board there for a couple of years, and they were comparing the number of participants in our league to the number of participants in Atlanta. Our league is bigger than Atlanta's.
That's crazy.
So just to put into perspective how awesome and how much of an impact Miracle Field has had on our community.
Thank you for saying that, Ron. Checks in the mail. Any other questions or comments?
Speak a little bit to what you did in Auburn in mind, because parents I talk to worry about what happens when the term age out happens with their children. So
The question is for me to talk a little bit about what I did in Auburn. The Exceptional Foundation of East Alabama is a nonprofit, 501c, that was established by 4 moms who all delivered children with Coincidentally, Down syndrome. That's what unified them, and they didn't know each other at all. So they kind of floundered around for 3 or 4 years and tried to figure out what's going to happen when my child ages out of the school system. I think they traveled to a couple of different places, one in Jackson, Mississippi, one in Kentucky, and then they coincidentally found out there was one just 2 hours up the road. So they visited the Exceptional Foundation in Birmingham, same place I've been sitting in the parking lot while Buck was in the hospital. And I think it took about 2 or 3 years to open up their own division. There's one in Fairhope. There was one in Atlanta, but they converted to a larger type business. And then there's one in Auburn and of course Birmingham. And They ran it haphazardly as, stay-at-home moms, and they hired a couple of people that were with the city Syracuse department to run it, and just won't get anywhere. And they've been calling me off and on for a few years because my college roommate, who's from Enterprise, Beth Jones, Beth McClendon Jones, she was in Auburn and she was helping them. She didn't have a child with a disability, but she reached out to me years ago, and I said, no, I'm not sure. I love where I am, and blah, blah, blah. So they called 2 or 3 times over the course of 4 or 5 years. So finally, when she called, I thought, what's about to age out of the school system? It's going to have something like this. Maybe it would behoove us to move. So we did. We moved up there. Buck and Elizabeth both graduated. They went to the junior high and the high school. Of course, it's all during COVID. But those 4 moms were convicted about and passionate about the health and vitality of their children, but they just didn't know how to run a business. Not that I've ever run a business, but I've worked with major corporations where I know what a female looks like. But so I was CEO and president. That's a big fat name for everything was my responsibility. It was a day program that the hospital allowed us to use for their buildings for free, which was great because rent is always the big number. We had 64 students that ranged in age from 17 to 61. We had a family that moved from Ozark to, I can't say anybody's names, just there, but they moved to Auburn just for that program because either the ones around here are full with waiting lists. So it's just a great program. We had art, we had education, we had lifestyle lessons, we taught them how to wash their own clothes, how to cook. But more importantly, I got them out of the building and got them into the public because that's where they needed to be. They needed to let typical people see them interact with each other and interact with them. So they would, because a lot of people who are not around people with disabilities are fearful of them. They just, especially when they're older. I don't know why that is. I don't know, that's psychological. I can't answer that question, but we grew, we doubled it in numbers. We closed it during COVID. We did everything virtually. We would do virtual classes with them. Everybody had their own computers at home, and of course that's how Dr. Elizabeth did class as well, as all yours did here as well. But so I don't know, as soon as COVID stopped, I won't say it ever stopped. As soon as it kind of slowed down, I just said that to my board, said I'm opening up. If we're going to be sick, we're going to be sick together. So we opened up, and you didn't think I'd let out a little cage of mice. They were just so excited to see each other. They were tearful and joyful, and they were hugging each other. And we, the typical people who are, we're so guarded by what people think about us, but not this population. They were so excited to see the friends they had not seen in 4 to 6 weeks, depending on their health situation. But I thought that day, I said, if there's any value to this program, it's witnessed right here. And we're sitting on the side of justice because without that, what COVID did to all of us is what post-graduation does to this entire population. Without COVID, they go sit at home and they sit in front of a monitor or a screen. They're at home by themselves. Their parents are aging or their grandparents are taking care of them. But this gives them the desire to want to get up and go to the program and be with their peers and their friends where no one's judgmental. But I started taking them out into the community. I would take them to very public events, pre-public events around them because I don't want a segregated population of adults or children, especially. So as soon as they graduated, we knew we were coming home when they graduated. And one of my board members, her daughter was in my daughter's brain. They just happened to transfer information like, oh yeah, as soon as we graduate, we're moving back to Dothan. So they got back to my board and they were sad and mad. So I stayed anyway. So we moved back to Dothan and I just had this desire, please let us do something. But sidebar and a secret, I'd invited Angie Lowe, who I love, who works for the city of Dothan, who runs a therapeutics program, who knows every child and adult with special needs by name, by birthday, by everything. She's so great. I don't know if you know Angie Lowe. She is such a gem for the city of Dothan and this population. But I would invite her up there during special events. She would bring all of their students that were playing basketball, whether it was Auburn or Montgomery or whatever, and they would drive over and observe. And so now they've started a program at Dub 2 here. Bub goes 2 days a week. Every student can go 2 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. They've converted the kitchen, they've converted the gym, everything is up to code for handicap, children, adults. So that's a great program. We're just trying to expand it. There's really not enough space in Dub 2. And if you tell me I told you this, tell them you're lying. When I was speaking that day to the Tuesday group, after tears, my mascara was down my cheeks. This is not the first time this ever happened. I looked out over that field. I've driven by it before, but there's an empty plot of land right across the street from the playground, which is for another day conversation because it's a hot mess. I thought that's where we should build our day program building. We'd have our own campus. We'd be with the indoor pool, we'd be on the walking trail, we'd be at the library, all by walking. So let's talk about that another day, but just tell somebody, I heard a little bird say, and Joe Donfro came up to me afterwards, and he came right to me and he said, whatever you want to do, I'll design it for free. So that whole day was a great day. I was so excited just to hear that people were interested in that. So that's my prayer and a wish. I don't know if it'll happen in my lifetime, but it's just know once I'm gone and I'm buried in Deerfield, that lot over there is the perfect lot to build a facility for adults with special needs so we can have our own campus. Like the whole Westgate could be our campus. Not just our campus, but we could be a part of it too. So that'll be for another meeting. But Buck has been the greatest ride. Let me tell you this. And some of you have heard me say this before. When Buck was at Kelly Springs, great school. We love Kelly Springs. So we can touch with all these people and teachers. This teacher came up to me and she was a typical teacher. I say typical. She taught typical children. You're going to have really good schools and a really good teacher for Buck when he leaves Kelly Springs. Oh. So I contained myself. I was like, Lord, please don't let me turn around choking. So I kind of whipped around real quick and I said, Buck is the great teacher. We are his students. No matter wherever he is, no matter what zone he lives in, no matter whether it's public or private, Buck is the great teacher. And I'm a graduate student. I mean, I didn't know what I was saying. I was so serious. Buck is the great teacher. Joseph and Lawrence can tell you that. They can help raise him. Buck is the great teacher, and we have learned more lessons about life in general from him than I did from a textbook, college professor, a mentor, or even my own parents. So you really created an environment for us to thrive, which is all any parent wants for their child. And I'll never be able to repay you. I'll do stuff for you for free. I'll do marketing for you. I'll help you do fundraisers. I'll do whatever because I owe you big time. And I'm in arrears already. So if anybody has any questions or comments, let me know. Yeah. Thank you.
You're always so tough.
How much?
I turned it
Hey,
down.
you turn me off.
I just turned it down. Keep feedback. You're back up.
You're always tough to call.
Sorry. I'll tell you.
Buck's gonna have to teach me how to follow rules. He's good. All right, next week, we have Dr. Ian McFadden, who's talking about enhancing Alabama healthcare. Board meetings next Monday on April 14th. Go Gators. Can I say that? Is there any Houston fans that I leave somebody out? Go Gators. Let's stand for the 4-way test. The things we think, say, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial? God bless you. Have a great day.